Hello, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I study as a 6.81 GPA Electrical Engineering student. So I just finished my second year and I received high distinction, which is the highest grade band in university. And I thought I would make a video showing you guys how I study and how I have been studying throughout university. That has given me these great results, and I believe my productivity is very high. I don't study that much throughout the day, unlike most engineering students who always obsess over studying as much as possible. So I'm just going to give a little introduction about myself. So my name is Tony Pham. I'm a second year electrical engineering student, as I've already said, and for the past 2 years, I've really tried to tune in on my efficiency and productivity rather than purely focusing on output, which is what I used to do back when I was in high school. And as you can see, for the past 2 years, I have received great results, high distinction, which are the two highest grade bands of university. So I believe the stuff I do works, and I believe it'll work for you as well. This is me receiving a first year engineering student award. This is the P.W. Stevens Engineering Prize, which is awarded to the engineering student with the highest overall GPA of their cohort in the first year. So there's some credibility for you guys to start trusting me. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So the first thing I would like to show you is why I rarely take notes, especially during lectures. Okay. In my opinion, taking notes is a scam. When you take notes, you put so much focus on the most stupid things ever, okay? You try to make it look nice, try to make it look neat. You focus on how you can put the professor's word into your own words, which might be good at the time, but I'd rather put my focus on what the professor is saying and just put all of my attention on what he's presenting or what she's presenting rather than trying to multitask where you'd write down your notes and then the professor is saying something new. So you'd have to, I don't know, operate using two parts of your brain and you just can't focus as well as if you were to put 100% on what the professor is saying and trying to understand it. Like quite literally, during one of my math subjects in the at the start of my second year, it was arguably the toughest subject in the degree, according to a lot of students who have graduated and also to the professors that are teaching that course. They're like, oh yeah, this is, the toughest subject that you're probably gonna take in your entire degree. And I never took notes. I actually, when the professor is presenting stuff, I see people around me writing down shit. They're, I don't know, sometimes even doing word to word what the professor is saying. And bro, to me, that's just a waste of time. Why don't you spend that focus on what the professor is saying so you can take stuff into your brain at the time and you focus so much better? And when the professor gives out example, the only time I take notes is when the professor says something along the lines of, this will be a question in the exam, or this might be a question in the assignment. That is when I'll take notes on what question he's saying. And bro, a lot of the times I don't even take notes on what he's actually saying. What I do is I just get my phone out and take a picture of the example that he's written on the board, the question, because bro, like you can just do that. The professors allow you to do that anyway in university, so you might as well just take a photo of the question that he's written on the board because as I've already said, I'd rather spend my time focusing on what the professor is saying as he's explaining stuff rather than trying to split my focus and spend some time writing stuff down and missing out on what he's saying. So that's how I take notes in university. I think I should get that out of the way. I think note taking is genuinely a waste of time. If you are going to go to the lecture, just spend all of your focus on what the professors are saying. And if you really, really want to take notes, bro, just take notes at home because the lecture slides are going to be uploaded anyways. The recordings are going to be uploaded online anyways. Lecture recordings in uni are pre-recorded, so they'll be up online. You can just rewatch them and take notes of the professors afterwards. But to me, taking notes is a waste of time. And to be honest, a lot of lectures and seminars in university might be a waste of time as well. Because the next section that I'm going to show you is going to be super, super important on how you can understand the content that you are learning in university, especially in engineering. And that is how I approach tutorials, okay? Now, this is actually quite important. So, I'm a huge, huge believer in self-learning, and in university, this is especially important because the teachers, the professors, they don't, I'd say they don't care about you as much as high school teachers do, where they chase you if you're late to the assignments, if you're not uploading them on time, that go around asking people, oh, are you understanding this well? Should I help you with something? Do you need any help? Bro, uni professors, quite literally, their job is to show up to the classroom, teach stuff, and leave. Outside of classroom, they barely spend time, trying to check up on student and replying to emails even. So I'm a huge believer in self-learning in university, and tutorials is a very, very important aspect because it exposes you to the types of question that will be in the exam, the assignments, and the tests in university. It's actually crazy how similar the questions are in university and how much they get recycled. So tutorials are very important, and this is how I approach it. So, before the tutorial, ideally the night before the tutorial, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to watch YouTube videos on the topics that you're learning. So, YouTube videos, handwriting's terrible. You're gonna want to watch YouTube videos on what you're learning, and you're gonna want to attempt the questions, okay? Do these two things. Watch YouTube videos and attempt the questions that you are doing. Now, the reason why this is so important is this is a sort of similar to a technique called priming, where you are exposing yourself to the content that you are going to be learning earlier than when you're supposed to be learning it. So then, when it is time that you are exposed to the content, you're going to have these questions already lingering in your mind. And you will know what you want to learn about the topic. So you'll absorb the content so much more efficient and so much better than other students around you. And you will absorb the knowledge almost like a sponge. Okay? So, two main things: watch YouTube videos and attempt the questions. One without the other will definitely not work before you show up to the tutorial because you do not know what you're doing. If you don't watch YouTube, oh, if you don't watch YouTube videos and just purely attempt the tutorials, you have no sense of direction on what you're doing. And you might practice some bad habits that you don't want to do when you approach the problems that you have to solve. And if you watch YouTube videos alone but don't attempt the questions, I'd say this might even be better than purely attempting the questions without guidance from YouTube. But, bro, to be honest, that's passive learning. That's not actively practicing what you are learning. So you won't get the same amount of exposure to the content as if you were to actually attempt them. So one without the other will not work. You have to do both of these things, watch YouTube videos the night before the tutorial session and attempt the questions. Okay, this is going to expose you to the content adequately so that when you show up to the tutorial session and the teachers go through the questions, you already know what you have to answer, the holes within your knowledge, you'll fill them up and you'll basically be good to go. And the reason why YouTube videos are so important and are so overpowered in university is because in engineering, the questions are, as I've already said, very, very recycled. So once you know how to do one, you will know how to do a lot of questions, okay? They follow a certain type of structure, and since they are recycled, a lot of the YouTube videos actually go through the exact same questions. Bro, like there is an assignment, okay? There's an assignment in maths I did at the start of this year where there was a hard ass question. Okay, so in maths assignment in university, they just give you like a problem set and you just solve them, and then you hand it up. One of the question was so incredibly difficult, no one understood how to approach it. But bro, I just went onto YouTube and I searched like the general outline of what the question's asking you. And bro, I found a question that solves the exact type of question that the professor has put out for us. Okay, you don't understand how crazy this is because you already have a perfect guideline on how to solve the question, even though the question in the assignment was supposed to get you to start thinking outside of the box. But YouTube videos literally helps you do that. So this is why YouTube videos are so important. The questions in university they get recycled, and you will notice that you'll keep being exposed to the same types of questions as you keep watching these YouTube videos and start attempting the tutorial problems that the teachers have assigned to you. And on the day of the tutorial, what I want you to do in the tutorial classroom is you're not going to want to reattempt the questions, okay? It is kind of pointless to reattempt it as you are in the classroom because you, you are already exposed to the answer as the teacher is going through it. So it is sort of pointless to do it at the time because you're not really learning anything. You're just almost rewriting, almost like a lecture kind of thing. You know, you're just rewriting what the teacher's writing, and you think you understand it, but what's happening in reality is you're just passively writing down what you're being shown. So what I want you to actually do is to take notes. Okay, this is one of the rare instances I actually take notes. I don't take notes in lectures, I take notes in tutorials. So I would take notes, but I wouldn't just take random notes. What I would take notes on is things that I haven't understood. So things I haven't understood. Okay, on the day of the tutorial, you're gonna show up, and the only thing you're gonna do is take notes on the things that you haven't understood. Now, the reason why I say this is because once you've watched the YouTube videos and you have attempted them, YouTube actually teaches you so well. It simplifies the concept and it teaches you in a way that almost a high school student would understand. So you'd already filled in most of the knowledge that you would need for the entire topic. And on the day of the tutorial, you're just gonna show up and take notes on a few things that you haven't understood. And once you do that, once you have finished the tutorial sessions, you are gonna go home. And what you want to do is a thing called spaced repetition. Okay? What spaced repetition is you are combating the memory curve. So our brain naturally forgets things that we're exposed to for the first time. You know, it's like working memory in a way. So I'd say for myself, speaking from experience, after I attend a tutorial session, after about 1 to 2 days, I would be at the point where I've almost forgotten what I was being taught. So that is the perfect time to practice these problems and sort of re-expose myself to it. And the way I re-expose myself to these content is via active recall. What active recall is you actively retrieving a piece of memory from your brain so that you can better store it in the long-term memory, okay? What most students do is they just reread the lecture notes, look back on their notes. That's passive learning because you are being exposed to a piece of information from an external source. You are not internally retrieving that piece of information. So use spaced repetition and active recall when you are retrieving the memory. So what I do is every 2 days after I have gone to the tutorial sessions, I would reattempt the entire tutorial set to make sure that I fully understand everything. And bro, to be honest, you just need about twice more. You just need to reattempt the tutorial problems two more times. And not even, you don't even have to do the entire tutorial set. You can just reattempt the questions that you haven't understood. And this is especially true after the first attempt that you are going through the tutorial problems after the lesson, the session. So after the first session of attempting the tutorials, what you want to do is you want to highlight the questions that you have gotten wrong, and you want to be really specific about it. Let's say, let's say for example, in question three, there are a few parts. In question three, you have part A, B, C, and D. You're gonna want to highlight the part of that question that you got wrong. So you're gonna say question 3D reattempt, and you're also gonna want to mention the topic that you got wrong. So then when you are reattempting the tutorial set, you know which part you got wrong. So you put more focus onto it, and it'll also stick to your long-term memory better than if you are just mindlessly reattempting the entire tutorial set. Because when you have priorities, your brain better stores the information that it is being exposed to. So that's another tip I want to show you on tutorials. And once you apply these tactics on tutorials, I assure you your university engineering journey is going to be so much smoother. You're going to understand the content that you're being taught so much better. And overall, it's going to help you so much in the long term. Exam season is going to be super, super easy because you've already stored enough knowledge from how you should approach your tutorial sessions. The next section of this video is going to be on how I approach my assignments in university. Now, in university, the main types of assignments that you're going to be faced are solving problem sets, that'll be your math assignments, and or your mechanics or physics assignments, and reports, okay? Those are the two main things that you're going to be doing for your, at least for your first 2 years, because that's what I've experienced so far. And how I approach the report, I'll start with the report because I think I'm very efficient. I'm probably the best report writer of all time. Is you always start with the main body section. You always start with the main body paragraphs because they give you a clear understanding of what the entire assignment is really about, what the entire report is going to be based on. Because a lot of students, they start with the intro and the conclusion for some reason. I don't know why they do that. Even the teachers have told them to start with the main body paragraphs, but students still start with the intro and conclusion even. I don't know, this is weird. But when you start with the main body paragraphs, it'll sound very bad at first because you don't know what you're doing. But that's the point anyways. You don't you don't need to know what you're doing first. You just need to expose yourself to it. So the first day of starting the assignment will just be on starting the main body paragraphs and get a picture for yourself of what the assignment is really about. And after this first day is done, once you have a clearer idea of what the assignment is going to be based off, you're going to create a very elaborate plan of how you're going to finish it. So what you're going to do is, now that you have a clearer understanding of the assignment, you're going to break the assignment down into very small subsections, okay? So let's say for report, right, you'd have your analysis and your evaluation of the results. I think that's how I remember them being. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to break the analysis down into smaller sections, the evaluation down into smaller sections. So analysis, you have a smaller section called results. Okay, you'd have trends, and then you'd have interpretation, and then for evaluations, you might have errors, so systematic errors, random errors, and you'd also have a section where you explain how they affect the results and the trends. Once you've broken your report down into smaller sections like that, you're going to allocate a specific amount of time to each of those subsection up all the way up until the due date. So then you've basically created a timeline of how you're going to complete your assignment, and it becomes super clear on what you have to do as you approach the due date. Now, once you've done this, you'll realize it's going to be so much less stressful to complete your assignment because you have a clear plan that you can stick to, that you can rely on without, having to worry about, oh, am I on track? Am I actually going to finish the assignment on time? Because a lot of students, including myself, back when I was in high school, I did not have a clear plan of how I would finish my assignment. So then every time I'd go and work on the assignments, I'd feel really pressured. I'd feel really stressed because you just feel like you're not gonna be on time because you're just doing the assignment. You'll feel like you have to do so much more than you really have to because you don't know when you're gonna finish it. You don't know if the work you're doing is enough to get you the results that you want on time. So, but once you have broken the assignment down and you've allocated a certain amount of time to each task, everything becomes very clear and you realize that the assignment that you have to complete is a piece of cake. Now, onto the other part, which is not report writing, which is the problem solving set. It's it's even easier to structure your time on finishing those problem sets compared to your report. You literally have question one, question two, question three, all the way to, I don't know, question five or six. And bro, you just allocate a certain amount of time to finish those questions. And I think you're given about 2 to 3 weeks to complete them, which is honestly insane to me. Like you could probably finish that assignment set in a day or maybe 2 days at most because some questions are they're sort of mind fucks, so you really don't understand what the question's saying until you've read it like 10 times. But yeah, problem sets are very easy. It's quite literally the same thing as tutorials. You just allocate a certain amount of time to complete each type of question. And yeah, up until the due date, you probably finish them way ahead of time. So that's how I approach my assignments in university. Ideally, you'd want to start them as early as possible after the assignment is handed out. And for reports, go straight into the main body paragraph so you have a clear understanding of what the assignment is about, and then structure your your timeline on finishing the assignment based on that, breaking your task down into smaller subsections. And for the problem sets, just allocate a certain amount of time on each question up until you've finished them. And the next section on how I study in university is how I schedule my days. Now, the main the main approach that I want you to have is more of a mindset. The main mindset that I want you to have on scheduling your days is a concept called eat the frog. Okay? What eating the frog is, let's say you're being handed a frog. You sat at a dinner table and I hand you a frog. Okay, and I also hand you a delicious meal. And I tell you you could eat the frog first and then you'll eat the delicious meal first. Or vice versa, you have the delicious meal first and you'd eat the frog later. Now, what most students do is they'll say, oh, give me the delicious meal first. I'm just gonna do this because it's easier, and then I'll worry about the frog later. That's fine. That's that sounds stupid. If you're even a decent student, you'll realize that, oh, I should probably eat the frog first because once I've done that, I'll have so much less stress to worry about, and all I'm gonna think about is having that delicious meal, which is very appealing, which is very tempting, and it'll it makes you excited for the dinner. But what most students do in school and in university is that eat the delicious meal first, that do the easier task, and then what they have to worry about for the rest of the day is the hard task that they will eventually have to do. And what's even worse about this is you'd have negative anticipation. And that is when you are doing the easier task, you're not even going to be focused on it as well as if you were to do the harder task, because the harder task will linger within your mind as you're doing the easier task. So it is kind of pointless to do that anyway, because you can't even do the easier task as efficient as if you were to do the harder task. When you do the harder task, all your focus is put into it because who would think about the easier task anyways? You'd put all your focus into the harder task, and then once you're done with that, the rest of your day becomes easier and easier and easier because You just have to think about the easier one. So how does this relate to the stuff I've talked about in this video? If you're an assignment person, do the assignment first within your day. Oh, sorry. If you're an assignment person and you dread doing the problem sets, do the tutorial first thing within your day. And if you're a tutorial kind of guy, if you like solving question, do the assignment first within your day. Because when you do the harder task, the rest of your day becomes easier. And a big tip for you, if you feel like starting the hard task is a little bit too hard at the moment, is but just go and take a cold shower. Trust me, once you've taken a cold shower, it's weird, but a sudden burst of motivation just hits you. It's like you feel like you're Superman after you've taken that cold shower. You feel badass, and then you're just ready to do whatever you need to do. So then you take a cold shower, you feel good about yourself, and you go and do that hard task. Do the assignment that you dread or the problem set that you never want to do. Get that shit out of the way, and then the rest of your day becomes so much easier, okay? The reason why cold showers is good is because it releases dopamine and adrenaline. Dopamine is your feel good chemical, is your feel good hormones. It helps you be motivated, and then adrenaline obviously gives you energy. So that's why cold shower is very good before you start a hard task. And this applies specifically to the eat the frog principle where you have to do the hardest task at the start of your day. And another advice I would like to give you is you want to study a maximum of 3 hours a day. When you study for more than 3 hours a day, you're not as efficient anymore. You would feel tired, you feel sluggish, and you could drink as many monster cans as you need to, but in the long run, you just burn yourself out and you're not going to study as well as if you just do 3 hours a day. And also, once you allocate less time on your study sessions, in a weird way, you will study more. You will study more effectively because you'll realize that you have less time to mess around. So when the time comes that you have to study, you just automatically lock in. Like you just can't not focus, you know? It's a weird thing. Like when I used to allocate a lot of time for myself to study in high school, I would study okay, but then after an hour, maybe an hour and a half, I would just go on my phone and do some weird shit on it. Like, I don't know, scrolling, watching YouTube or some gay shit like that. But ever since I started allocating less time to my studies in university, I have been able to study so much more efficiently, better focus because subconsciously I just know I have less time to study. And if you are studying a maximum of 3 hours a day, what I would do is I would allocate 1.5 hours on assignments and 1.5 hours on tutorials. And you might be thinking, okay, if you only study 3 hours a day, how are you gonna cover all of the subjects? Because you'd have 4 subjects in university, and for each one you'd have some sort of tutorial problems, and you also have some sort of assignments that you need to do. So that's 8 things in total, right? Oh, that's so much. Like, how am I gonna cover all that? So how you should do this is if you spend 1.5 hours on your assignments and 1.5 hours on your tutorials, you should be able to cover 2 subjects a day where you'd cover all the assignment problems, all the assignment stuff, and also all of the tutorial problems. So then you are basically all set for that subject. And then if you do this every day of the week, you have 7 days in the week. That would be more than enough days to cover all 4 subjects multiple times, spanning across the tutorial problems and also the assignments. So then everything is going to be covered. Nothing is going to be missing within your routine. So that's why you should only study 3 hours a day. And studying more than that in a weird way gives you less results, and you'd actually be able to study less when you allocate more time to study. It's a principle that I forgot the name of, but your work basically fills in the amount of time that you've allocated to it. So the more time you allocate to it, the more you procrastinate automatically, and you just have less efficiency and less focus than compared to if you were to allocate less time on what you're going to be working on. And that's about it. That's all for this video. This is how I've studied for the past 2 years in university in engineering. It's given me great results, great productivity, great efficiency. I don't have to study as much in my days anymore, and I still achieve great results. I have a lot of things going on in my life, and I still am able to achieve these things. I play sports, I go to the gym, I socialize, I go out with my family, my friends all the time, and I don't have to sacrifice any meetups simply because I am efficient enough with my studies and I am productive when I do get to studying. So I hope these things will help you as it has helped my studying potential. I hope you apply these things, see great results, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.